Hello and welcome back to the Chatcave podcast where I discuss media in the forms of reviews. I'm your host, Drinking Thomas Hughes, and today we're returning back to the Maneater series once again to discuss the 8th entry in the series, The Hive, which was released in 2008, but if you go on IMDb, it's classed as 2007, I believe. I'm looking at the release date info because it was released in Poland in 2007, so it kind of counts it as that, but online it's classing it as 2008, and so is Prime Video, which is what I'm going to go off. But yes, obviously, so the 7th entry in the series and focus on a group of American scientists who are drafted in to help stop a killer swarm of ants. Obviously, the movie was directed by Peter Manus, who portrayed a TV newscaster in Croc. Directing-wise, is that she did one thing before this, one thing after this, so it's nothing really that I know of. It stars Tom Wopat, who was in 120 episodes of The Dukes of Hazzard. He then reprised his role in the 2 follow-up movies. So obviously we have another established TV star leading the lineup. Obviously the first time since Something Beneath. Obviously he was also in Jonah Hex so many years after this movie, and the Quentin Tarantino masterpiece that is Django Unchained. Fucking love that movie. We then have Elizabeth Healy, who portrayed the character Alison in Croc, and she's not the only actress reprising her role in this one. As we have Jessica Reeves, who portrays Debs in this film. She was basically a very small cameo, I believe, in Croc, but she was also an assistant on the movies Blood Monkey and In the Spider's Web and Croc, so she has some experience in this franchise. But yeah, obviously it's out of all the concept, this is the one where you're like, okay, killer ants, how is this going to work as a concept? And they find a unique way of making it work. Because obviously if you look at how this twists towards the end, you can go, okay, it is an interesting way of making it work. I mean, I've noted in my notes later on, obviously, which I'll get to then, about the fact that this obviously the kind of concept they do go with is very similar to another movie that came out last year. So obviously this movie basically beat them to the punch, but in a not so good way. But anyway, so obviously this movie is a step back, is what I'm going to refer to as in this series, because I mean we've had 3 passable entries as of late. I mean, Something Beneath, Croc, and Eye of the Beast were pretty alright entries. They had their moments, they had their positive moments, their negative moments, but they found a way to cancel each other out to get to that point of mid-card status. But for me, this is a step back into the realm of below mid-card, and the realm of I can see aspects of where they could push it back into that territory. So it's a shame, but obviously this is one that I generally don't fucking remember at all. I mean, I keep saying that about a couple of them. I don't remember much about them, but this is one where I swear I generally have not watched this one before. I think I've seen little snippets of it when obviously it's been on TV, but I've never actually sat through it from start to finish. So I'm going into this one basically a blank slate, similar to a couple of these. But this is one where I've gone into a blank slate and I've gone, you know what? This could have been better. I mean, especially if you look at the opening of this movie. This opening of this movie is pretty fucking dark. It's probably the darkest we've had up to this point. Because obviously, it requires me to spoil a little bit here, so spoiler alert. Obviously, the movie opens with a death. Obviously, it opens with a death of obviously a mother, and obviously her, I wouldn't say newborn baby, but a baby basically. And it's just like, well, this movie's gone to a dark realm very instantly, and that you expect to then set the tone for the rest of the movie, and it kind of doesn't, because obviously it kind of then goes into a very goofy territory at times. So it's like, okay, you have this really cool opening, and then you just don't capitalize on it. I mean, it's like the opening. There's this moment where obviously when she gets killed, and then it cuts to the baby, and they're going after the baby, and it's like they stop, and one kind of investigates. And you're like, okay, This is interesting. Like, you're looking at it as like, are they not going to kill it? And it's like, maybe they're not going to. Maybe there's like, okay, this is not anything that we need to kill. And then it just obviously, they snap and then swarm it, and it kind of cuts away before you see anything happen, which is a good thing, really. So I know it's a dark opening, but you don't really want to see the actual death scene for this baby. But I say it's a dark opening, and it's bold as fuck for them to do it. But they just don't capitalize on that dark tone they set from the get go, and I think because of the twist they go with, that kind of doesn't help. But then obviously talking about the deaths in this movie, there's not many in this one. Most of them are very early on, and then there's one right towards the end. But the deaths are, in a sense, moments that I both love and hate. So I hate because the budget of them, budget of this movie makes them look pretty bad. But then I like the way they go through with the deaths. So when the ants swarm a person, they are literally biting at the skin, chewing away the flesh, and all that's left is the bone. And I love that. I thought it was pretty cool. It makes sense because the ants, they swarm. So it makes sense that they'd strip a target to its bone. I'm pretty certain. Is there an actual ant that's like that does that? But it's very much like a piranha, essentially. They swarm, they eat the flesh, all that's left is a bone. And I do like that, but I say it's the movie's budget constraints, which I've put multiple times in this, my notes here. That does hinder it because it doesn't look the best. Because them obviously constantly being moving these ants, the CGI just isn't up to a standard that you'd want for a film where they're going to have like, these little creatures constantly moving. So it looks cheap. And then obviously the skeleton afterwards also looks cheap. It's one of those ones that say the death's cool. It's just the visualness of it just hinders the core concept they've got. And so they do it a couple of times early on, but then like most of the movie tends to literally not have any deaths in it, which does kind of hinder it again a little bit. It kind of is. I mean, I said there's two later on I can account of, but they're just, one's not much to it, and one is obviously a big moment, but again bogged down by low budget digital effects. And that's obviously the problem. I say the problem with this movie is its CGI. Because obviously all the ones so far we've had a mixture of digital and practical, and obviously I respect the ones that go that route. Obviously, though, Croc had its issues where the crocodile looked different sizes consistently. I still respect them for trying to not fully embrace the digital effects, because this movie obviously fully embraces the digital effects. I mean, the only shots we get of practical ants is from a news report earlier on. You kind of seen like, not the ones from this movie, but obviously ones where like, someone's like, oh, you look at this nature documentary where you're seeing these ants creating like some sort of bridge or something. I think it was like a wall actually, and it's like, okay, that's real ants. You're seeing that, it's pretty cool. And then later on, where the same character who's making this obviously this report, she's there studying them, and obviously they're actual ants in these little jars and that running around. And that's the only times really this movie actually uses practical ants, which I mean it makes sense really, because it's a bit more difficult to use ants, well, real ants. And say obviously the smallest we've got so far is obviously the spiders in the spider's web, but you know, you can kind of do a bit. You kind of actually can use practical spiders without causing any problems. So it is understandable why they obviously couldn't use real practical ants, but when you in a position where you can't do that, and obviously you have to go the route of digital effects, you kind of have to make sure the digital effects are up to a standard, which this movie sadly doesn't. I say it's just pure digital effects, and the digital effects just aren't very good whatsoever. there's not really a shot with digital effects that I can go, okay, that was decent. And I feel like sometimes when you're watching these bad digital effects movies, there are times where you go, okay, that shot there wasn't too bad. But this one, obviously, there's not a single shot that I make that comment on. That's why I felt I respect Something Beneath a lot more now, because they knew they had a budget constraint. They knew they couldn't use this monster throughout the movie, so they found a way to work around it. As I say, there's not really a workaround they could really do for killer ants. So it's one of those ones where I say I can understand, but at the same time, watching it, you go, you could have done better. And that goes for obviously a lot of the other effects they use in this movie, because it's not just the ants that get digital effects, it's the attacks from the weapons they obviously the scientists use, because there's this essentially like a handheld cannon that they make, which is designed to be like sort of like a flamethrower that shoots this big beam of blue, not essentially fire but light at the ants. And the whole point is it's meant to be like this sort of chemical compound that is designed specifically to kill these creatures. And obviously the blaster itself is purely practical, and I go, okay, at least they built this futuristic looking flamethrower type device. But obviously the actual blast itself is very digital, and blending that with the audio digital effects of the ants that's there, it just, well, you can guess what I'm getting at. It's not very good. And then on top of that, there's like this whole essentially digital electrical fence that they build, which is like it's like this little rod that they put in the ground. They put them obviously so far apart, and they create this like essentially like an electric field between them. And obviously, again, the rods are practical, but the light in between is all digital, and just, again, low budget, doesn't look very good. Maybe they should have found better workarounds for this stuff and not fully use CGI for stuff like this, because there's probably is better workarounds they could have done for these things. So it's definitely something that obviously they try to make unique things with this concept they've got, because it's very early on a very basic concept. It's not till the twist happens where the concept kind of goes crazy. But obviously this basic concept, they try to keep you invested, make some unique moments. And it's, again, the budgetary constraints definitely hinder this one from being a visual treat, basically. It's not just obviously the budget, really. It's obviously the acting's very mixed in this one as well. There's obviously, there are some decent moments of acting, like some alright passable moments, but then obviously there's a lot of moments where it's just like, that person cannot act for shit. And so that kind of just sums up the movie in the sense that it's a mixed bag that's bogged down by budgetary constraints. And I'll keep using that word because that's what this movie is. Because as I say, it's one of those ones where it's an interesting concept that's screwed over by being this made for TV sci-fi original movie. Because obviously the concept they go with, the twist concept in the end, obviously that's something that's actually been done, let's say, last year, 2024, in a movie called Sting, so spoiler alert there. So it's that same sort of concept, but the problem is that had a budget, that had a good budget and a good cast behind it, so it really did make this very stupid and crazy ass concept work perfectly. And I mean, it's a good movie. I mean, I wouldn't say it's one that I'd give like a 9 or 10 to, but it's a movie I'd give like a solid 8 to. Like, it was a really fun movie that had fun with its concept and had some really fucking great moments with its digital and practical effects. So as I say, the concept is done. It's just it just showed the difference between this sort of concept with a big budget and this kind of concept with a little budget. And to say the concept they do go with this movie definitely requires more money behind it to make it work. But I did like the subplot that's in this movie. So very early on in this movie, when obviously they see all these ants, and the scene obviously this weird moment where they kind of create these tentacles at themselves. There's a moment where obviously two characters get attacked, they get away, but one of them gets obviously an ant in his ear, and he spends the entire movie with this in his ear, and obviously they keep pointing it out, they keep showing it, attacking his nervous system, making him kind of go crazy and just act weird. And I like that concept. Was pretty cool because it shows obviously how much of a threat these ants are. Yes, they're a threat in the sense that they can strip a human to the bone, but they're also a threat in the sense that if they get inside your body, they literally can cause a lot of fucking problems to you. So I did like that. I did think that was pretty cool. Because I mean, I myself have tried to make ants work for a plot. I mean, I've stated this before, the fact that obviously I do try and write books every now and again. And obviously one of my book series, my horror one, obviously one of the concepts was killer ants. And I generally got probably not even halfway through the book. And I was sitting there going, how the fuck am I making this work? So far I've used like all different animals. I'm just like, all these ones worked because I could do stuff with them. It's like, what the fuck can I do with killer ants? So I will give a little credit to the people behind this movie for making the killer ant concept actually work, because as I say, I've struggled, and I'd say I'm at the point where I'm literally rewriting and trying to figure out ways to incorporate other things into the story to at least make it work, and maybe just lead to the ants being like a fine antagonist, because at least then I can use other things to stalk people and stuff like that. It's just like credit where credit's due for making a killer ant movie work, because I say I'm struggling to make a killer ant book work. So what else have we got here? I've done most of that. Obviously, go back to the practical, obviously, blasters they have. Obviously, they spend most of this time as well in these orange suits with like these giant helmets on to make sure the ants don't get them. And every time I was watching it, all I could think of was the suits they used in Doctor Who. I think it's specifically from the Tennant era onwards. When they go into space, not those orange suits, some of the yellow helmets, it kind of reminded me of that, but obviously the helmet being a bit different. So every time I was watching it, I kind of got that vibe. I think it's the Tennant era onwards. It was the Ood one, I think they introduced him in. I could be wrong, it's been a while since I watched it. But yeah, I kept thinking of that every time I was watching it. But yeah, obviously, other than that, obviously, the ending as well, it's another mixed bag, because obviously the ending's where the big plot twist happens, where it's obviously finally reveals obviously why the ants are acting like they are. And as I say, it's an interesting plot twist, don't get me wrong. I think it's pretty intriguing. It makes sense. It's a good way of obviously showing that obviously why the ants are going to this extreme length of attacking everyone in sight. It's obviously not because obviously there's people are disturbing their territory, like obviously one of the theories was early on. It's obviously something's controlling them. I like that concept. That's pretty cool. It's just there's two moments that take this a bit too far. I mean, the first off is, spoiler alert here, FYI, when the little ants come together to make a giant fucking ant, in reminiscence of the one from fucking the Power Rangers movie, the Mighty Morphin one, the first one, when obviously that giant robotic ant. It kind of reminded me of that, but there's fucking digital real ants rather than just one whole solid metal creature. Obviously that, I think, kind of took it a bit too far. I mean, it's an interesting idea. It's just like, did you need to go that level of far with this? I mean, I think the idea is to show that here's a big threat for you, but it's just like, I don't know. I just thought it was a bit too far. But to be fair, I think this movie took it too far moments before that anyway. and a little while before that, because this character gets taken by the ants, and the whole time they're referring to it as it's a hostage negotiation situation, and they literally have a moment where they're trying to negotiate with these ants to basically to let them go free and stuff like that. I'm just like, okay, maybe they took it too far before the giant ants. I think that was them trying to get it back on track, but it was still a bit too much. But as I say, I just don't know what the fuck was the idea behind a negotiation sequence with the ants. It was too far, basically. I think, I say, the whole twist of it, I think, is pretty far-fetched, but at the same time, it's like, okay, it's fine. I don't see a problem with that. The problem I literally have is just these two specific moments after the twist. They're just too much, basically. And I kind of do leave it open a little bit, in the sense that there's possibly more to this story, even though there never was a sequel or any follow-up, because that's the thing with the Man-Eater series, there never was any sort of follow-ups to any of the entries. I think that would have been like a cool idea. Like, there's definitely some where there's like some sort of open, like it's not fully closed story. Like Blood Monkey, there's obviously probably a bit more you could tell with that. In the Spider's Web, maybe there's another bit you can go on from that. I think there's definitely some entries in the series where you can easily get a sequel and add more to the story, but this is another one where they say they leave it open, but never go into any sort of follow-up with it. But as I say, it's a mixed bag of a movie that, as I say, it's got this intriguing concept, and as I say, it has this plot twist. It's like, okay, a bit far-fetched, but it works. It does work, and it's a good way of showing why these ants are like this. It's not just because they're ants. There's more to it than that. But it's definitely held back by budget constraints, like I keep saying, and going too far and not knowing when to stop going that far. To say, I feel like they could have. The twist is fine. Just stop at that. Don't go any further into the realm of really than that. But as I said, the hostage negotiation scene, the giant ant scene, take it beyond the plot twist a bit too much and make it a bit iffy, which obviously, I say, for me, as I said at the start, as an overall, it is a step back in the Man-Eater series, because we had 3 decent mid-card movies, Something Beneath, Eye of the Beast, and Croc, not in that order specifically. Those were 3 decent mid-card movies that had issues, but had a lot more positives, and had an equal amount of positives that balanced it out. And most of the things where I was saying, okay, this is where you could get further, it's less of getting to the mid-card stage, and more, okay, tweak this and that, and you could be getting like a 6-7 star movie out of it. It's definitely, I say, it's just a step back. I don't think it's 2 steps back. I don't think it's in the realm of Man-Eater, Grizzly Rage, and Blood Monkey. I kind of do prefer the concept of this one to those ones, because as I say, those ones may have started like someone obviously that I actually do recognise, and obviously it was more of a basic premise in terms of their animals they used. There's ones where you can go, okay, kill a bear, kill a tiger, kill a monkeys. I can see that working. I do like that they took this killer ant concept and made it work. I say it's just the fact that it steps too far with just too far, and on top of that, as I said, the budget make obviously not being of a high standard, of a high amount. Sorry, made the special effects just look really bad. Probably the worst. I would say probably the worst of the series, yeah, because obviously, at least with the ones with the bad CGI moments, you only get 1 or 2 moments of them. Whereas this, because it's constant, I definitely label this worst in terms of special effects. Croc was probably the worst in terms of acting. This is definitely the worst for me in terms of special effects. So I feel like the way they can definitely fix this movie would be higher budget, a bit more budget to fix that special effects at least, and I say maybe get rid of the hostage negotiation scene with the ants, get rid of that moment, and and obviously add more budget. Could definitely get this up to that mid-cart status for me. So on that note, I'll give the Hive a 4 out of 10 because I say I like the aspects of the movie, sorry, but specifically that negotiation scene and I said the low budgetness of the digital effects drag it down. I said don't drag it down as far as like a 3-star, but drag it down to the level of In the Spider's Web, where it's getting close, but it's just not there yet. So yeah. Right, so then ranking then. So I think I do prefer In the Spider's Web to this, so I feel like I'm going to put the Hive, I say specifically the 2007-8 movie, because there is a couple of movies also called The Hive. I'm going to put that into 5th place. So a quick rundown there. So we have Blood Monkey in 8th, we have Grizzly Rage in 7th, we have Maneater in 6th, The Hive in 5th, In the Spider's Web 4th, Croc in 3rd, Eye of the Beast in 2nd, and Something Beneath in 1st. Now we're actually going to take a quick break from the Maneater series. I will say this because obviously we're up to almost at the point of December, so I wanted to get some obviously more festive reviews in between obviously now and the end of the year, because it's the only time you can really get them done. So we are going to take a quick break from this series. But before we do, obviously, if you've seen The Hive, put your thoughts in the comments below. I say specifically the 2007-8 movie, depends which year you want to class it as. But obviously, our next entry in the series, which would be the 9th entry, will be Black Swarm, and I say that'll be dropping some point in the new year. I think it's the first Friday in the year. I think it's the second Friday I'm aiming for. I remember that being a decent one, so I'm looking forward to that one. Maybe because Robert Englund's in that one, so I'm definitely looking forward to rewatching that one. Obviously, you can check out the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Audible, Amazon Music, etc., etc. You can also check it out on YouTube if you're not already watching it on there, where you can see all my other content, including obviously my current playthrough of Ghost of Yotei, which obviously will finish end of the month, and then obviously I'll have the review of that one out early December. That's one of my December slots. But the next actual entry of the Chat podcast will see the return of Connor, because it's our annual Game Awards voting episode, which is always a lot of fun. Because we have a little competition between us in terms of who picked the most correct, and so far I am fucking losing. So it's a must-win year for me this year, and I say I'm looking forward to it because I haven't had Connor on the podcast for a while. I don't remember the last episode he actually was on, but we do have a lot of fun. And I say the Game Awards voting is always a good one because it allows us to essentially geek out on games that we've loved playing this year, and just have an idea of obviously. Actually, no. I kind of lost track where I was going with that conversation, but I say this allows us to enjoy a year of gaming and kind of give us an idea of basically what has been dubbed as the big games of the year. So there's definitely some that we know are going to be up there, and there's some that ones that I'm hoping might be up there, but it just depends if the cut-off point cut them off or not. Because there's obviously some decent games that come out recently, but I don't know if the fucking cut-off point stops them being added to this year. But I'd say by the time this episode goes out, I'll know, because obviously the nominees come out on Monday. Well, this past Monday just gone. So I will know by the time this episode goes out the nominees, and if the game I want to be in maybe the narrative category, if that has actually made the cut or not. So that'd be interesting to see. If not, it's definitely going to make the cut for the Golden Cave Awards at the start of next year, but we'll see if it made the actual cut for the proper Game Awards, the official ones. Not. Yeah, I feel like that covers everything. I say, do obviously check out the Game Award nominees next week, and I think it's the week after will be Ghost of Yotei review. I've just got to re-record it because I already recorded it as soon as I finished the game, but my recording fucked up, so I've got to re-record it, which is a bonus because it means I get to talk about the platinum trophy I got with the game, which is going to be fun to talk about. But so do stick around then for the rest of December, because I don't know exactly what Christmas movies or Christmas projects I'm going to be reviewing with my 3 remaining podcast slots in December, because I'm going to do all 3. I'm going to try and do the entire December, and say 3 back-to-back Christmas-based movies, maybe TV specials. Don't know yet. I'm going to have a fucking look. And so then we're back in the new year. I think possibly the first episode of the new year might be the review on Pokemon Legends ZA, I will admit, because me and Alex are going to be trying to sit down and review that, but that possibly might be the start of the new year, and then Black Swarm following that. But I always fuck around with the schedule, but I'll have a little look-see where my schedule's taking me, basically. So other than that, I hope you enjoyed the review on the 2007-8, depending on which year you want to class it as, movie The Hive, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.
If you like what you've seen, don't be afraid to throw us a little like and subscribe. That's always very appreciated over here. And, well, I'll see you on the next video.